This song's called One Day, and that's the words of the chorus. Sometimes I lay under the moon, I thank God I'm breathing, and I pray don't take me soon. I am here for a reason. Sometimes my tears are drowned, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity's around, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for it, I've been praying for the people to say that they don't wanna fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play one day, one day, one day. Wanna try that? One day, one day, one day. Perfect. Not about win or lose. We all lose when we see the souls of the innocent, blood-drenched pavement. Keep on moving, the waters stay raging. In this maze, you can lose your way, your way. It might drive you crazy, but don't let it take you away. No way. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that they don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play one day, one day, one day. Y'all got it? One day, one day, one day. If you want to hear the rap, I have to turn the page. All right. One day this all will change. Treat people sane. Stop with the violence, down with the hate. One day we'll all be free and proud to be under the same sun, singing songs of freedom. Well, we all want to try that part. We all. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that they don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play one day, one day, one day. Oh, I love to hear you sing. One day, one day, one day. Last time. One day, one day, one day. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Brazos Valley, Brazos UU or UUCBV for short. My name is Kay Webb, and I'll be serving as your worship assistant today. We are a welcoming congregation, which means we celebrate and welcome all people of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. We also strive to welcome people across diversities of race, age, ability, immigration status, and belief. We are a congregation working for reproductive justice. So whoever you are and wherever you have come from, and wherever you are on life's journey, we welcome you here. Today we have three announcements, I think. One is that this afternoon after church, grab lunch and then go over to Reverend Kiya and Reverend Meg's house to start working on our community garden. Yay! So I'm going to go home and change clothes first, so then I'll be over there. 511 East 31st Street, just across the street from 6, going to the other side of 6. Right. And then Friday is our Boo UU at the same place, at Reverend Kiya's and Reverend Meg's. We will have an adult Halloween costume contest, plus a whole bunch of games and maybe a movie, s'mores, mazes, all kinds of fun. So come out and join the community for that. Invite your friends to come learn about UU at the booth. It will happen rain or shine. So if it rains, we'll be in the house. If not, we'll be out in their beautiful backyard where we're starting to grow the garden. So come on out tonight and this afternoon and Friday night. And then we have some good news from our, I hope it's good news, from our Sacred Space Team Chair, Kathy Weaver. Woo! Y'all give it up for Kathy.
Molly and I went over to the property on Friday, just a couple days ago, and approved the metal roofing material. And they are ordering the roofing material. They will be putting the roof on, and they're going to cover the skylight temporarily until they can install it. But what this means is it's going to be dried in fairly soon, and then they can start working inside with the roof intact. So that's good news.
Our call to worship today is in the gray hymnal. If you all would like to help me out with a responsive reading, it's number 441. It's called To Worship. Give you a second to get it. To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in sunlight, or a grain of sand. To worship is to be silent, receptive, before a tree astir with the wind, or the passing shadow of a cloud. To worship is to work with dedication and with skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music. To worship is to sing with the singing beauty of the earth. It is to listen through a storm to the still small voice within. Worship is a loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for rain. Worship is kindred fire within our hearts. The good news leads us through paths of love. Worship is a mystery within us, reaching out to the mystery beyond. It is an articulate silence, yearning to speak. It is the window of the moment, open to the sky of the eternal. Jacob Trapp.
So now join me in saying, let's try the singing part. Maybe Kiya can lead us on the singing part. The words of our chalice starting. We light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, as a beacon of hope for all who seek justice, dignity, and compassion, and in celebration of the life of truth and meaning we share together. And now, our affirmation statement. This is our great covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another, and forgive others when we make mistakes.
Of course. Y'all, we are so fortunate that Allison is taking her day off this month, and she is partying today. And so we have a guest storyteller. Jessie is going to tell our story today. You all are lucky. Y'all give it up for Jessie.
Hi everyone. We hope Allison has a great time. So I'm glad I could be here to read this in her place. So this is the story of the Chinese farmer. This version was by Alan Watts, and the oldest that we can find was in Huinanzi in 139 BCE, so it's a very old Chinese story. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. That evening, all the neighbors came to commiserate. They said, "We are so sorry to hear that your horse has run away. This is most unfortunate." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back, bringing 7 wild horses with it. And that evening, everybody came back and said, "Oh, that is so lucky. What a great turn of events. Now you have 8 horses." The farmer said again, "Maybe." The following day, his son tried to break one of the horses, and while riding it, he was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbors came and said, "Oh dear, that's too bad." The farmer responded, "Maybe." The next day, the conscription officers came around to conscript people into the army, and they rejected his son because he had broken his leg. Again, all the neighbors came around and said, "Isn't that great?" And again, he said, "Maybe." The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it's really impossible to tell whether anything happens is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequence of that misfortune, or you never know what the consequences will be of good fortune.
And now we're going to sing the children out to go play. Singing This Little Light of Mine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right. The 4 noble truths. These are that life is sorrowful, that suffering is caused by ignorant craving or desire, that the end of suffering can indeed be achieved, and that the way to that end is through the noble Eightfold Path of right view, right aspiration, right speech, right conduct, right means of livelihood, right endeavor, right mindfulness, and right contemplation, or just doing right. So we're going to sing hymn 184, which everyone is terrified of for some reason. But I will sing it through, and then we'll sing it through again. So if you feel a little timid about it, don't worry, you should try it the second time. But this is what Buddha said, supposedly. You might need this. Be ye lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence, hold to the truth within yourselves, as to the only Lamb. It's not that bad. Want to try it again? Be ye lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence, hold to the truth within yourselves, as to the only Lamb. Now is the time in our service where we take a moment to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. Please remember that our service is recorded and available publicly if you need to moderate your message accordingly. And we have a mic up here available to anyone who would like to share their joys or concerns.
I have a concern today. My brother-in-law, my youngest sister's husband, is going in for major heart surgery on Tuesday. And they live in Oklahoma, and they're flying to Cleveland Clinic to have this done. So we just want your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Anybody else? We'll light a candle for all the unspoken joys and concerns. Now we'll have a moment of the wise silence where you can get in touch with your own heart, or if you speak to God, you can do that too. End our time of silence with a prayer from the great Buddhist teacher and author Thich Nhat Hanh. Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become wholly ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being common to us all and to all living things. Evoking the presence of the great compassion, let us fill our hearts with our own compassion towards ourselves and toward all living beings. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to each other. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life and of sufferings that are going on around us, let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. Amen. Blessed be. Ashe. This morning I'm talking to you about courage and the Eightfold Path. So in the reading I told you that there are 9 noble truths. This is what Gautama worked on. Siddhartha Gautama, or Buddha, worked on in the 5th century. He was a prince who grew up in Hindi and India and Nepal, and his father had a prophecy that he would be either a great king or a great spiritual leader. So guess which one his father would prefer that he would do. So his father made his life so that he was in a special castle. There was nothing of life's darker images in front of him. He never saw sick people, he never saw old people. He just didn't know. He got married off when he was 16, he had a beautiful wife, had children, he had all the food and money and entertainment that he could possibly want. So what's wrong with that? Well, one day he got curious and he wanted to go out beyond the gates. So he went out beyond the gates and he saw a dead person in the street. What is that? He asked the person who was his attendant. The attendant's like, oh, well, he's dead. What is that? It's like, can you imagine never realizing? I think I realized it when I was about, 3, that people could die. I mean, nobody took me to a funeral until later, but you kind of figure out that people could die, and you see TV, you know that it's happening, but it hasn't happened to you yet. Or maybe it did really early. But that's a terrible realization. And then the second level of the realization is, I'm going to die? Oh my gosh, I'm going to die too? my dog is going to die? That is not possible. No. But that's what happens. And this is what happened to Buddha. And so he went and he tried to find his way. There's got to be something more to life than all this stuff, right? How many of you have had a capitalist angst moment in your life, ever? Like, there's got to be more than the next movie coming out. And what if it's not good? I'm very devastated about Black Adam. I just want you all to know. That movie is just not up to snuff. That's sad. How many people feel that way about everything? It's just like, oh, another pair of shoes. My mother's closet looked like Imelda Marcos's closet. She had grown up a sharecropper's daughter, and her father had lost his business during the Depression. And so an orange was a big deal in her family. So she grew up loving the idea of having as much money as possible, as much things as possible, as many shoes as possible. And my dad had been a son of a minister. So they both were a little bit that way. You know, they were always going for the next big thing, wanting to be in the country club, wanting to be the people, right? But at some point, you have to stop moving and go, wait a minute, there's got to be more going on here, right? Got to be more. That's what happened to Buddha. So he tried a couple of things. He'd been really wealthy. He knew that didn't make him happy. That didn't make him feel fulfilled. That didn't make him feel like he was in touch with what was really going on with his one precious wild life. So he went to the aesthetic route. It's India. There were lots of examples of that. And so they say that he starved himself to the point that his belly button was touching his spine. And then he woke up a little bit. He started waking up. And it was like, wait a minute. And even guys were following him around because he was so good at suffering. He was so good at being miserable and never having enough to eat and just, being really humble. And finally, he accepted a bowl of rice from a little girl, and he went and took a bath in the river, and his 5 disciples left him. Because he's like, wait a minute, this isn't right. I'm going to eat some food. I'm going to chill out a little bit. And so what he started doing is he started pursuing a middle way. He went and sat under the Bodhi tree, and he said, I'm staying here till I get enlightened. And lo, that's what happened. And so they say that he realized the Four Noble Truths, which we talked about, the suffering, and that you can do something about the suffering, and that the way you can do something about it, his method, is the Eightfold Path, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Not for everybody, but I like the overall feel of it, and what I really love about it is, like, basically we're talking about a couple of things with Buddhism. You want to be both compassionate, heart-oriented, and you want to be head-oriented. You want to be wise. Compassionate and wise. And a combination of those two things is what you are aiming for. So the Eightfold Path is 8 things, but it's not like 8 steps like you do the first one, and then you do the second one, and then you work on the third one for a couple of years, and then you work on the fourth one. No, they all kind of go together, and they're all based on creating this blend of wisdom and compassion. Kindness. Kindness. If you get that right, you could mess up a lot of other things. Get kindness right. So, let me get my thing here. Here we go. I could be like my wife. When my wife preaches, sometimes she throws the paper away. So, we have 8 steps, and they're all right. We've read them, right? Everything. But it's basically in 3 sections. So it's in moral and ethical conduct. There's 3 of them about that. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Those 3 define your ethical conduct, your behavior to the world. We can remember those, right? Right speech. Don't say something if you don't have to. If it's not going to help anybody, don't say it. Don't talk when you're tired. You know what I'm talking about. Right speech. Right action. You want to do the right thing. You want to be concerned for other people, not just selfish. Don't just operate out of fear. That's why I call the sermon Courage and the Eightfold Path, because courage is necessary to do this at all, to work on yourself at all. So, in a way, you could say that courage is mental and moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. So we're going to take fear on, and the good kind of fear is the one that keeps you safe, right? Don't touch that hot stove. You're afraid of it because we have thousands of years of people doing it the right way who got burned and they taught their kids not to touch it, right? That's healthy, that's internal. And then there's the kind of fear where you keep yourself from living. That's the one we don't want. Supposedly, this is a method, not the only method, but a method to get through your life, to be more grounded, to be compassionate and care about other people, and wise. Right? So we want to be brave enough to try this. Try it. It may not be for you. I cannot sit zazen. I can't cross my legs. I never have been able to. If I'm going to meditate, I need to sit in a chair. If I'm going to do yoga, I need to sit in a chair. I like Tai Chi better. I like taking a walk better. Labyrinths, I'm hopeless. So you have to figure out what works for you. And there's more than one way there. And the great thing about Buddhism is Buddha lived a long time. And he had about a 45-year ministry. If you compare it to Jesus only had 3 years. Right? Buddha was around long enough that he had actually anti-Buddha people who went out and took some of his disciples away, started another side business. You know what I'm saying? There's great stories about all that. And because this is very, very old, what we're talking about, it moved from country to country and it took the flavor of each country. So there are many different kind of Buddhisms and practices. Maybe you're familiar with Zen or Tibetan Buddhism, like the Dalai Lama. Those are two ways. There are others. So, and it's been a Western interest since the Victorian era. UUs were big on going to Buddhist countries and teaching Buddhists how to be Buddhists, which is hysterical. But that's why they started the Parliament of World Religions, is they wanted to get information about other religions in other ways. And I encourage us as Unitarians to explore other world religions. And I'll try to every once in a while do a sermon about them, because you might be attracted to something that might have some information for you. Might be an easy way to do it. And they've worked out these systems over thousands of years. And so people are pretty good at teaching how to get out of your own head and get out of your own way. But the main idea is that you're going to work on seeing the world as it is and not telling yourself stories that get you off the path. Do you know what I mean by that? Like something happens to you, like Gay, she comes in this morning and maybe she didn't say hello to me. Or she did and I was looking the other way, I didn't see her. And then I go home and I tell myself a story about how Gay's really mad at me. And she's not really mad at me, she just didn't see me. Or she wasn't awake yet, she overslept, and she's like 5 minutes into, we were talking about this earlier, it's like my mouth wakes up in time for church, but my eyes don't necessarily wake up until about 11:30. You know what I'm saying? So we tell ourselves stories that aren't necessarily true, so you have to start asking yourself. And one of the things about Buddhism is by meditating and just sitting and watching your mind work, you can learn, is that really true? Am I interpreting that story correctly? Is that really what's happening to me? And hopefully over time, you'll learn some of your standard stories. Like almost everybody has like 5 standard stories. Jungians talk about archetypes, you know. So is your story that you tell everybody always a victim story? Is that the story that you want to tell? Is that true? Is that really true? There's a great writer named Byron Katie who writes about this if you're interested in that kind of subject, like how do you figure it out? Is that story really true? And she's really good at that. But a lot about Buddhism is about this, about telling the stories correctly, seeing things as they are. Like in the story that Jessica told, maybe it's a good thing, and maybe it's not a good thing, and you can decide that. That's your mind deciding on the story about what happened. You could tell yourself a different story, or you could just wait, like the farmer, and say, maybe I'm just going to stay in the moment. I think the more fear involved in whatever situation that you're dealing with, the more you need to stay in the moment, and that's where meditation is really helpful, whatever kind you're into. So that was a long way around to where I'm going next. Okay, the second aspect of the Eightfold Path, we've got 3 involved in the ethical conduct, and that's right speech, right action, right livelihood. Maybe start out just focusing on that. And then you get to mental discipline, and that's where the meditation and telling the story come in. And the 3 involved in that are right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. What are you focused on? Because we are fear-based beings that, you know, have been socialized, negative information is always louder than positive information, and it takes real will and effort and practice to focus yourself on the positive. How many of y'all do gratitude, have ever tried the gratitude? Right. It helps, doesn't it? I mean, it does change your focus a little bit. You start noticing the good things. That might be a great way to get into this sort of practice. Because I play instruments and I've taught lots of people how to play, I see a lot of similarities in how you learn things. For example, most people, if I was trying to teach you the ukulele, I would teach you one chord and I would say, go home and play it every day for 5 minutes, set a timer and stop. If you're really, really hard at it, I'll go 2 minutes. Set your timer for 2 minutes. You can only play the ukulele for 2 minutes, but you have to play every day. You will get better than somebody who plays an hour a week. You will get better quicker. It will become natural to you. You work on things in your sleep. Whatever you practice, do it with intention and do it for a short period of time more often. Every day if you can, every other day if you just can't find time to do it. Every 3 days. There's no rule book, but you're going to get better at whatever it is if you do it in small chunks with your complete focus. A lot of times with instruments, people learn and they get frustrated and they start practicing and they play it wrong. They just taught themselves to play it wrong. Now they have to unlearn playing it wrong and then relearn it correctly to get better. Does that make sense? Everybody tried to play something?
I think it's true with anything.
Yeah, it's true with anything. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to take on a spiritual practice, treat it like you're learning to play the ukulele or the guitar or the piano or whatever you learn to play, the oboe. Pick something that you understand that you learned. How did you learn it? Think about how you learned it and what works for you. Some people are oral, some people are visual, some people need to do it with their feet. You know, everybody's different. But you can find a meditation practice or something that gives you that kind of focus. It could be making a pie. It could be something physical, art. You could find a way to do it that where you're using the concentration of your brain. So we've got the 3 that are ethical conduct, and then we have the 3 that are mental discipline. That only leaves 2 more. And that's where the wisdom is. Right thought and right understanding. So are you thinking the right thoughts? And then are you understanding those thoughts in the correct way, or have you added a lot of baggage because you didn't bother to do the earlier things that I'm talking about? Are you seeing things the way they are? Are you accepting how they are? Are you practicing focusing your mind and working on letting go of your fear and letting go of your stories that you tell yourself all the time that are not helpful? And it's not about good or bad. Buddha did not believe in God, in case you are interested. He did not. It's all about that. And then the lovely story about Zen is that if you meet the Buddha on the road, you're supposed to kill him. They don't really mean kill him, because right livelihood, you're not supposed to kill people. But you are supposed to be focused on your own enlightenment and your own progress. And Unitarians can totally get behind that, right? So I hope this is helpful, just a little short discussion about right livelihood. I was going to tell you one more thing. Yes, if you need help with Buddhism, my recommendation is to talk to Buddhists. But there are some excellent books I can recommend if you're interested. Just let me know. And the whole idea of karma doesn't mean that you're going to do something good and then the spirits are going to reward you. But if you tend to do things in the right way, and you practice, and you're focused, and you have good intention, and you follow through on that intention, it is going to improve your life. This is like a secret way to happiness. So I hope you give it a shot, and thank you for listening. And now we're going to the next part of the service, after I get rid of all these pieces of paper. It's nicer.
Now, excuse me, now let an offering be taken to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us. A community of harmony, of memory, and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. This church shares the proceeds of the offering plate donation every week to support important nonprofit organizations with which we work. And this month, we are proud to support the mobile food pantry. The Brazos Valley Food Bank began the mobile food pantry back in 2008. I didn't realize it was that long ago. With the goal of bringing fresh, frozen, and non-perishable foods directly to food deserts. That means communities with inadequate access to nutritious foods needed to maintain a healthy diet. Please be as generous as you can.
Yeah, the food pantry that's sponsoring us that has a building is the one that started that back then. The mobile food pantry that we are helping to sponsor, and that this money goes to, it's only happened for 5 months or so. So we're on the ground floor of this food pantry. So the song that I picked, all the songs I picked today are ukulele songs, and they're all Buddhist vibe songs, in my opinion. So this one's got a really easy chorus too. It's called Beauty in the World. It's by Macy Gray. It's a pop song. Hope you like it. Hey, I know you're fed up. Life won't let up for us. All they talk about is what's going down, what's been messed up for us. When I look around, I see blue skies, I see butterflies for us. Listen to the sound and lose it. It's sweet music. Dance with me, 'cause there's beauty in the world, so much beauty in the world. We need more loving, we need more money. They say change is gonna come. Like the weather, they say forever. They say, baby, in between. Notice blue skies, notice butterflies, notice me. I gotta turn the page again. Stop and smell the flowers and lose it in sweet music and dance with me. 'Cause there's beauty in the world, so much beauty in the world, always beauty in the world. There is beauty in the world. Shake your booty, boys and girls, for the beauty in the world. Pick your diamond, pick your pearl. There is beauty in the world. I think we should sing the chorus one more time. Thank you all for your generosity. May it return to you tenfold. Here we go. There is beauty in the world, so much beauty in the world, always beauty in the world. There is beauty in the world. Shake your booty, boys and girls, for the beauty in the world, so much beauty in the world. There is beauty in the world.
Now join me in extinguishing the flame. We extinguish the chalice, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we gather together again. The benediction today. It's here somewhere. There it is. Comes from Jack Cornfield. In the end, these things matter most. How well did you love? How fully did you live? And how deeply did you let go? Go in peace.